Okay, guys, so I'm gonna try to document some stuff for you guys. I'm gonna make the oats for the grain jars. So the oats I use, I keep in a 5-gallon bucket. The bags are huge. I think they're 50-pound bags. They're $20 at Tractor Supply. The oats you want is Producer's Pride brand. They're whole oats, or whole rolled oats, and they basically look like that. So I keep them in buckets. I got these lids on Amazon years ago that just snap on. You can unscrew them. Nothing has to be sterile yet. So basically, I'm gonna make 8 jars. So yeah, we don't really need 8 full jars of grain, but it's better to have a little bit more. So just fill it up with 8 jars, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so that's 8 jars, more or less. So it doesn't have to be exact or anything. It's not exact science. But when you're done, put your lid on, because if you spill this thing, you're not gonna want to have like the dirt in the floor inside there and stuff. Okay, so it's about halfway full. What I like to do, because I don't really have a second big ass pot, so I pour them all into another bowl. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put this, fill it up about halfway with water, maybe a little bit less than half, and then we're gonna bring the water to a boil. Once the water's boiling, I mean like a boil, roaring boil, we're gonna add the oats back to it. We're gonna boil these oats for 25 minutes. Once they're boiled, we're gonna kill the heat, take them off, and we're gonna strain them out. So the way I strain mine is I have another 5-gallon bucket that I drilled a bunch of holes in the bottom, because a regular strainer isn't gonna hold that much weight. So anyways, I just pour into the bucket, I strain out most of the water, sanitize my countertop, and by the sanitize, I'm gonna just wipe it down with 409, and then I spread the oats throughout my countertop. Okay, so for the countertop, I'm using literally just Lysol. Doesn't have to be like rubbing alcohol or anything like that, because everything stuff goes back in the pressure cooker later. So I just wipe everything down with Lysol, more or less just make sure there's nothing real funky in there. More worried about like other spores off of, mushrooms we've been eating, or like cooking mushrooms or plants or anything like that. But literally just wipe down the countertop, give it a good scrub down. I like to go side to side, inch by inch, make sure I get it all. Then I'm gonna wipe this down once again with a paper towel, and then I'll wipe it down once again, just a regular paper towel with the distilled water, or not distilled, but like RO water from the RO system, just to get any like residue from the Lysol off there. And then once we'll come back to the countertop, but once I strain everything, I don't have like all these fancy racks and stuff, so once I strain everything in the bucket, I literally just spread the oats out on here, and then once they're spread out, I let them cool the best I can, and then I put them into the jars from there. Okay, so these are what the oats look like. So they are Producer's Pride. I believe they're rolled oats, but they're whole. They're not milled or anything like that. So 50-pound bag is like $18 at Tractor Supply. So just figure $20 after taxes, and man, it'll make so many jars, because I don't know, this might be 10 pounds for it. Let's just figure it makes 50 to 100 jars. So let's say it's 70 jars, but yeah, pretty cheap for a medium. So okay, first, don't laugh at my little top here. I broke my pot lid, and if it works, it works. So that's a rolling boil. I'm gonna take these oats, pour them in. You might spill some, it happens. So when you do it, obviously make sure you have enough room in there for the oats and the water without spilling over the top. So just give it a real quick stir here, and set a timer for 25 minutes. Okay, so real quick, like I said, here's my strainer. It's literally a bucket with a bunch of holes drilled in the bottom. So when those are done after 25 minutes, put that into the sink, pour the oats in here, Just let them sit there for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. Once those are done, we're gonna take these, we're gonna shake and see if there's any extra water that's come out. If so, then we'll let it out. If not, then we'll take them, pour them right here, and just spread them out super evenly. So, no big deal. Okay, so it's been 25 minutes. Come over, like I said, just pour the bad boys into your strainer, your colander, whatever, your bucket of holes. Get all that moisture out. So those should be properly hydrated. Everyone's got all these fancy methods to test it, but I found 25 minutes works great. Just rinse out your pot. Otherwise they'll stick on the side and be a pain in the ass to get out. So now just let that sit for about 10 minutes. Every once in a while you can come over here, give it a little shake or whatever, but you can see it dripping out the bottom. Yeah, so see you in a little bit. Okay, while that's draining, another thing we do, we have stainless steel bowls that we use for picking mushrooms, harvesting the mushrooms, all that stuff. So we have a set that we mainly use. We have two sets, but one we use more for the kitchen, one we use more for mushrooms. But one thing we did was measured the weight of them. We wrote on the side. So when we're harvesting the mushrooms, we throw them aside here, we dehydrate them, we'll take them off the dehydrator because the dehydrator is so big. We'll have this thing overflowing sometimes. So we just weigh the whole thing without tearing it. And then we just subtract 673 grams for this bowl, and then basically gives us our weight. So we wrote it on there for marker, and it just stays on there. All right, guys, so we're gonna dump this out onto the counter. If you don't remember, we already wiped it down with Lysol, wiped it down with some, water, paper towel to that. So I'm gonna wipe that down. I have this scraper or spreader or whatever. Got this at Dollar Tree for $1. So it's not like it's a high tech or anything. So you can see how hot it is. So do your best to get them all out. Put your bucket back down. Basically just take this and spread them out. So watch out for your edge. They're gonna wanna spill off the edge, but yeah. So the more surface area you have, the faster it's gonna cool. And then once they're cool, you can start working with them again. We're gonna fill the jars. Once the jars are filled, we're gonna pressure cook them, and then that's pretty much that. So you probably have way more oats than you need. So I put 8 jars of oats in here. Thinking back in my head, I didn't compensate for the water, so I probably should use like 5 jars of oats or whatever. But the oats are so cheap that you can just throw some away, or if you have extra jars laying around, you just fill them up. So we're gonna let these cool, and we'll come back to it. All right, guys. So grains are cool. They don't have to be dry. They just have to be cool, but they'll be pretty dry. Got a canning funnel, just makes it easier. And then my little spreader, I just scoop it up, pour it inside there. Now, if you're gonna be like using like a spore syringe or anything, I like to make them like pretty much right here to like the top of the label where it says ball, which is, it just leaves just enough to shake it up later. But if you're gonna be doing like a grain to grain transfer, you might want to use a little bit less than that. It really just depends. So if you're doing like grain to grain, maybe like halfway full. Some of those jars actually, just because of timing, I might do grain to grain on. So essentially I'm gonna take a fully colonized jar and then pour each one into 3 of these jars. So yeah. So anyways, just fill all this up. Then we're gonna put a lid on them. I'll talk about the lids later, but we're gonna put these lids on them, seal them up, put a piece of foil over them, pressure cook them. All right, guys, so put up all these jars. So I got 6, 12, 18 of them that are about halfway full. So the ones that are halfway full, I'm gonna use for a grain to grain transfer. So I have 6 jars of Z string inside there that are fully colonized. So each jar, once I shake it up, get it loose, I'm gonna pour each jar a third into these other jars. So 18 of these jars will be used for that. So these other ones, these other 6 I have it to about right here, probably about 3/4 of the way full. So I'm gonna use some colonized like agar that I had, throw it inside there. The penis envies that I thought had stalled out, they might not be good, but we'll see. Then I have some more Z strain that I'm gonna top off these 6 with, and then once I do that, the 18 that I'm doing grain to grain on will definitely just take off. Like they'll take off and they'll colonize way faster than these 6, but these ones will mostly be a different strain. So in the end, it'll be good. And once you're done, you're gonna have little oats everywhere on this countertop. So just take your little scraper tool. That's what it's mainly for. I realize the scrape. So just scrape stuff, everything into one little pile. And you guys can take that, and if you wanted to make an extra jar, you could, but I usually don't. I usually just take it, scoop it up, throw it in my bucket, and then throw it to the trash. Okay, now that you have your jars filled, we're gonna put our lids on. So everyone's got their, everybody's got different lids. Like some people have like the lids, metal lids with holes drilled in them. Some people buy lids off Amazon or from a supply place. I bought these plastic lids. They're just plastic mason jar lids off Amazon, and I just kind of made my own after what my friend showed me. So I drilled about a 1/2 inch hole on one side, 1/8 inch hole over here. Obviously I stopped making this one. So once you have a 1/2 inch hole or so, or 3/8 or whatever, and then a 1/8 of an inch hole, or even like, I don't know, like 3/16 of an inch if you wanted to. What you're gonna do is this red stuff is high temp RTV silicone silicate. So you're gonna take a wet finger, you're gonna put a dab of the stuff on the little hole and then kind of flatten it out. So stuff's ugly, but I mean the lid works. So then on the inside, you're gonna do another thing of the sealant, and then with your wet finger, you're gonna make it wet so it doesn't stick. You're gonna push it through a little bit, and what it does is it makes a little nipple right here. So if you were gonna inject this with like spores or whatever, that's exactly where you want your needle to go through. So it's basically the sealant on the inside being pushed back out. So that's your self-sealing injection port. This hole right here is for a breather. So they sell filters, they sell this, they sell that. You can get this Tyvek filter material for free from the Postal Service, which is like those like almost like a paperish mailing bag. So you can order those online and have them delivered like 50 at a time at your house for free. So what I did is that's where the injection port hole is. Just cut out a patch of it, and around the hole right here, I put a little ring of the sealant. I put this on there, kind of camped it down, and used the sealant to seal the edge. And then I flipped it over, probably a little bit overkill, but I did the same thing on both sides. So this hole is covered underneath this little Postal Service Tyvek material. So that's how I made my lids. They're ugly as shit, but they work. So this is basically your breathing hole. It blocks moisture, but it breathes. This is a self-healing injection port. Okay, so now that we have these things filled, they're relatively cool. We're gonna put the lids on them, wrap them up in foil, or put foil over the top, and then pressure cook them. Okay guys, one more thing. When you buy these lids, they have like a seal. It comes with a seal that goes inside here. So I didn't put those in because the person who taught me about the lids didn't put them in. So no seal, just put it on. Not super tight, but snug. And then take your foil, put it over the top, just wrap it down. And now we're ready for pressure cooking. Okay, so I was just reminded of something. Sometimes you see people put their foil all the way down the side. I was told that if you take the foil and kind of push it up right here, so it's covering the cap, but kind of like is just like around it right there, not hanging down, that it doesn't suck anything up into there, so any moisture. So ideally, you want your foil like that. So it's covering the cap, but it's not really having anywhere to suck stuff up in there. So we're getting ready to pressure cook these. I'm gonna spare you the pressure cooker because I'm sure you guys know how to use it, but 15 psi, 90 to 120 minutes. I usually go 120 or so just because if they're over sterilized, whatever. If they're under, it's a bad day. So cook them up. A big 23 quart Presto. I usually get 7 on the bottom and then put 2 on top like that. So imagine I had 7 in a circle, 2 on top. So go ahead and get them cooked up. Okay, so get them loaded up into your pressure cooker. I got 7 on bottom, 2 laying across like this. Got the foil wrapped up around the edges. And then another little tip I have, when you put the water in, put about 2 tablespoons of white vinegar on the bottom. It'll keep your jars from getting cloudy on the outside. So we're gonna cook these for 2 hours at 15 psi, and I'll see you guys then. Okay, you've made it this far. You've done the pressure cooker. Everything cools down, you have your jars. So the jars are nice and cool. So your options now, we'll first take off your foil. So your options now are, if you're using spore syringes or any type of syringe, bust it straight through right there. Squirt your spores down inside, give it a little shake, and then just stand by and wait. Your other options are to use a flow hood or a still air box, and then you can open this up inside the pretty sterile environment. Put agar on there. You can do grain to grain transfer. I'm not sure what else you can do that way. I guess you could use spores that way too, but that makes no sense. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. Your grains are good. You're ready to go. Time to rock and roll.